Welcome back, everybody. I'm excited for this deep dive.
Yeah.
It's almost a new year, and that means New Year's resolutions.
Absolutely.
But let's be real for a second.
Mhm.
How many of those resolutions actually stick? I know I've definitely fallen into that trap of setting big goals and then kind of fizzling out by February.
Yeah, it's a common cycle. You get that initial burst of motivation and then life gets in the way.
Right. Exactly. So this time we're doing things differently. We've got a ton of research on why resolutions fail, and more importantly, how to make them actually work.
Yeah, we're going beyond those typical surface level tips and really digging into the science of behavior change.
Exactly. So if you're ready to break the cycle of broken resolutions, you are in the right place.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, so I think the biggest myth out there is that it all comes down to willpower. Like if we just wanted it bad enough, we just power through.
Right.
But I've tried that, and it just doesn't seem to work.
Yeah, you're hitting on something that researchers call ego depletion. Basically, the idea is that willpower is a finite resource. It's like a muscle that gets tired.
Oh, so it's not about being stronger. It's about working smarter with the willpower we have.
Exactly. You can think of it like making decisions. Every decision you make throughout the day depletes that willpower muscle.
Oh, so our brains are like decision overload, system shutting down.
Pretty much.
So what can we do instead of relying on this shaky willpower? What if we just don't have any left?
Well, that's where systems and routines come in. When you build habits, you're essentially automating your actions.
Okay, so less decision making.
Exactly, which means less reliance on willpower. It frees up mental energy for other things.
So instead of relying on willpower to resist those donuts in the break room, I could just make it a rule to avoid the break room altogether.
That's a great example. Strategic avoidance. You're removing the decision point altogether.
Ooh, I like that, strategic avoidance. Let's go in my notes. Okay, so we're talking about systems, routines, but we also have to have the right goals, right?
Absolutely. You've got to have a clear target. And this is where the concept of SMART goals comes in. It's not a new idea, but it's powerful.
Okay, so SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
That's right.
But even with SMART goals, sometimes I aim too high. Like, I'm going to run a marathon this year, even though I haven't run a mile in years.
I think a lot of us fall into that trap. You get caught up in the excitement and set these massive goals that are pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, and then I just give up.
Right. So instead of focusing solely on the outcome, try shifting your focus to your identity.
Ooh, identity-based goals. Tell me more.
So let's say your goal is to eat healthier. Instead of fixating on losing a specific amount of weight, what if you focused on becoming the type of person who prioritizes healthy choices?
So it's like I'm not just trying to lose 10 pounds. I'm trying to become someone who naturally makes healthy choices.
Exactly. You're aligning your actions with your desired identity.
Okay. This is already making me rethink my whole approach. It's not just about checking things off a list. It's about becoming a healthier version of myself. This is definitely going in my notes.
It's a much more sustainable and inspiring approach.
It really is. But even with the best intentions and a clear vision, I sometimes feel like my environment is working against me, like it's setting me up to fail.
Oh, absolutely. Our surroundings have a huge impact on our behavior.
Right.
Think about it. You're trying to eat healthy, but your pantry is full of junk food. Or you want to be more productive, but your phone is constantly buzzing with distractions.
It's like trying to run a marathon with an anchor tied to my ankle.
Exactly. You're constantly battling yourself. The key is to be intentional about designing an environment that supports your goals.
So like instead of fighting to resist those cookies, I could just, not buy them in the first place.
Exactly. Out of sight, out of mind.
And maybe put a big comfy chair in a well-lit corner for reading instead of scrolling on my phone on the couch.
That's the idea. You're making the desired choice the easier choice.
I'm starting to see a theme here. We need to outsmart ourselves. Set up those cues and create an environment that supports our goals. It's like we're playing chess with our own brains.
I love that analogy. It's all about being strategic and setting yourself up for success. And speaking of our brains, we can't forget about our need for instant gratification.
Oh yeah. Our brains are wired to seek out those immediate rewards, which makes those long-term goals feel, less appealing.
Exactly. Saving for retirement or writing a novel doesn't give you that same rush as, say, eating an entire bag of chips.
And speaking of chips, I think it's time for a quick break. We'll be right back with part 2 of our deep dive into New Year's resolutions.
Sounds good. See you soon. Welcome back. We were talking about instant gratification before the break and how those long-term goals just don't give us that same quick reward.
Yeah. It's tough to stay motivated when the payoff feels so far away.
Right. So one way to hack that is to create what I like to call reward milestones.
Ooh, reward milestones. I like the sound of that.
Yeah. It's all about giving yourself little celebrations along the way to keep you going.
So like many rewards to keep me motivated.
Exactly. Let's say you're trying to save up for a big vacation. Instead of waiting until the very end to celebrate, what if you gave yourself a small reward every time you hit a certain savings goal?
Okay, so maybe like every $1,000 saved, I could do something nice for myself, like a massage or a fancy dinner.
Exactly. You're still experiencing that sense of reward and accomplishment, which keeps you motivated to keep going.
I love that. It's like a little pat on the back from me to me. Okay, so we've talked about goals, rewards, but what about those pesky habits? You know, the ones that keep pulling us back into our old ways.
Ah, yes, those old habits. It can feel like you're trying to create this new you, but your old habits are holding you back.
Exactly. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Well, you've just perfectly described the power of habit loops. These are those automatic behaviors that we do without even realizing it.
Okay, habit loops. How do those work again?
So a habit loop has three parts: the cue, the routine, and the reward.
Okay, I'm following you.
So let's say you're trying to break the habit of stress eating. Your cue might be feeling overwhelmed at work.
Okay, makes sense.
The routine is heading to the vending machine for a bag of chips. And the reward is that temporary feeling of comfort.
Ah, I see. So to break the habit, I need to interrupt that loop somehow.
Right. And a good way to do that is to identify your specific cues and then find healthier alternatives for the routine.
So instead of chips, I could try taking a quick walk or doing some deep breathing exercises when I feel stressed.
Exactly. You're replacing that old unhelpful routine with something that aligns with your goals.
This is making me realize how much I've been underestimating the power of my environment and those sneaky habit loops.
They're more powerful than we think.
They really are. But let's talk about another big obstacle, the fear of failure. I think it holds so many of us back from even trying.
Oh, absolutely. Fear of failure is a huge one. It can be so paralyzing.
It is. Especially when we set those big, ambitious goals for ourselves.
Right. We start thinking about all the ways we could mess up, and it just feels easier to not try at all.
Totally. And then if we do slip up, it's so easy to just throw in the towel.
Yeah. The key is to shift our perspective and view setbacks as learning opportunities, not reasons to give up.
So it's about turning that fear into fuel for growth.
Exactly. Instead of getting discouraged, ask yourself what you can learn from the experience and how you can adjust your approach moving forward.
Okay, that's a really helpful way to look at it.
Yeah.
So how can we actually manage that fear and prevent it from holding us back?
One really effective technique is to break down those big, daunting goals into smaller, more manageable steps.
Okay, so instead of aiming to write a whole novel, I could start by setting a goal to write for 30 minutes each day.
Exactly. It's much less intimidating to tackle a series of smaller challenges. And each small win builds your confidence and momentum.
It does. Okay, we've talked about the pitfalls, the fears.
Okay.
Now I'm really excited to get to those research-backed strategies you mentioned. What are some of the tools we can use to actually make these resolutions stick?
Well, I'm glad you asked because I've got a whole toolbox full of them.
Let's hear it.
One of my favorites is habit stacking.
Habit stacking. That sounds interesting.
It's a simple but powerful concept from the book Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Okay.
The idea is to attach a new habit you want to build to an existing habit you already do consistently.
So like piggybacking on an existing routine.
Exactly. You're leveraging the power of those ingrained neural pathways.
Okay. So for example, if I want to start meditating, but I struggle to make it happen, I can stack it onto something I already do every day, like brushing my teeth. After I brush my teeth, I meditate for 5 minutes.
You got it. Your brain already has that brush teeth pathway ingrained, so you're just adding a new branch to it.
That's so clever. I'm enjoying that. What other tools do we have?
Another powerful technique is called implementation intentions. These are if-then plans that help you overcome obstacles.
If-then plans. So it's like I'm anticipating my own excuses and having a plan to combat them.
Precisely. For example, if your goal is to exercise regularly, but you often get home from work feeling exhausted, your implementation intention might be, if I'm feeling too tired to go to the gym, then I'll do a quick 10-minute workout at home instead.
So I'm removing the decision fatigue and making it easier to choose the healthier option.
Exactly. And research has shown that people who use implementation intentions are way more likely to stick to their goals.
Okay, I'm adding implementation intentions to my list of strategies.
Yes.
This is great.
All right, next up we have keystone habits.
Keystone habits. What are those?
Charles Duhigg, author of The Power of Habit, describes them as habits that create a ripple effect leading to positive changes in other areas of your life.
Ooh, so like one good habit leads to a bunch of other good habits.
Exactly. A classic example is exercise. When you start exercising regularly, you often start sleeping better, eating healthier, and feeling more energized overall. And those positive changes can then spread to other areas of your life.
So it's like a domino effect of good habits. I like it.
It is. And one last tool I want to talk about is accountability.
Oh, yes. Accountability is so important. I know I'm way more likely to stick to something if I know someone's checking in on me.
Me too.
Yeah.
And research backs that up. Studies have shown that people who share their goals with a friend and regularly check in with them are more likely to achieve those goals.
So it's not just about willpower. It's about building a support system.
Exactly. Having someone to share your journey with, to celebrate your wins with, and to help you through the tough spots can make all the difference.
It really can. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Goals, habits, fears, strategies. This is amazing. Is there anything else we should touch on before we wrap things up?
We've talked about a lot of external strategies, but I think it's important to remember the power of self-reflection, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Journaling is one of my favorite tools for personal growth.
Mine, too. It's so valuable for gaining insights into your behavior, identifying patterns, celebrating your successes, and really understanding your motivations.
Yes. And it's amazing what happens when you put pen to paper. Sometimes things just click into place.
I know what you mean. There's something so powerful about writing things down.
There really is. Welcome back. We've covered so much ground, so many amazing strategies. Now let's see how we can actually put this all together.
Yeah, let's make this practical.
Exactly. So let's say my resolution is I want to get fit. Pretty common one, right?
Very common.
But how can I take that vague goal and turn it into an actionable plan using all these tools we've talked about?
Well, first, let's make it a SMART goal. Remember, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Okay, right. So instead of get fit, I could say I will walk for 30 minutes 3 times a week for the next month.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now you've got a concrete starting point.
Perfect. Now, where does habit stacking come into play?
Well, think about something you already do consistently every day. Like maybe you make a cup of coffee every morning right after you wake up.
Mm-hmm.
You could stack your walking habit onto that. So your new routine becomes, after I make my coffee, I put on my walking shoes and head out the door.
So I'm linking my new habit to an existing one.
Exactly. You're using that existing neural pathway to your advantage.
Clever. Okay, but what about those days when I'm just feeling exhausted and I really don't want to walk?
That's where implementation intentions come in. You've got a plan B ready to go before those excuses even pop up.
Right. So maybe my if-then statement is, if I'm feeling too tired to walk for 30 minutes, then I'll just do a 15-minute walk around the block.
Exactly. You're making it easier to choose the healthier option even when you're not feeling your best.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. It's like creating a system for success.
That's exactly it. And to keep yourself motivated, don't forget about those reward milestones. Maybe you treat yourself to a new workout outfit or a healthy meal after you hit a certain number of walks.
Oh, and of course, I'm going to be tracking all of this in my journal.
Excellent.
It's incredible how much our perspective on resolutions can change when we have the right tools and strategies. It's not about deprivation or willpower. It's about understanding ourselves and setting ourselves up for success.
I completely agree. It's about making those positive changes that we truly want to see in our lives.
And as we wrap up this deep dive into New Year's resolutions, we want to leave you with this: what is one small step you can take today to set yourself up for success? Maybe it's writing down your goals, finding an accountability partner, or identifying a habit you want to stack. Remember, even the smallest action can make a big difference.
Absolutely. Every journey starts with a single step. So what will your first step be? Happy New Year, everyone!